Hello and welcome to Precontation Points Video Snark. I read books and talk about what went wrong. I'm continuing my read-through of Alienated by Melissa Landers. Not the first video, go check out the others. Links are posted below. Chapter 10. Kara sits down to read a book when her mom comes over and begins to pester her until Kara pays attention to her. I think I'm being forced out of my own book club. How does that happen? Mindy Jordan keeps changing the meeting times and forgetting to email me. There's a lot of that going around. Also, Screwdriver Mindy Jordan, start your own book club with people who are clearly less racist than she is. And they keep pushing to read that unedited fanfiction book with all the spanking. You know what? I feel like this book gets a star simply for the author's dig at 50 Shades. Eileen continues on for a while, expressing disappointment in the general population and their casual racism over the aliens in Elix's presence. I just heard about a riot in Canada, of all places. Who riots in Canada? That aged like milk. Eileen makes sure that Kara is being careful at school, which leaves Kara little choice but to lie to her mother's face. She then goes on and tells her daughter that she got another call for an interview from some teen magazine. Kara is only annoyed since she keeps getting those, but she's too busy with school and making sure Elix is happy to agree to the interviews. Right as Kara is settling back into her book, the doorbell rings. It's Marcus and his father, Ron. Kara instantly is on alert about what fresh hole that they could want. As they come in, Kara randomly starts thinking about how Marcus is dating Brandy and thinks that it's disgusting anybody would want to kiss him, no matter the social perks he comes with. However, much to my surprise, Ron brought Marcus over to issue a sincere apology, although he should be forced to say one to Elix too, considering that it's because of Elix simply existing that the fight even happened. Kara knows that Marcus isn't sincere, but she wants him out of the house, so she decides to accept the apology regardless. And then Ron pulls out a Halo pamphlet, which Ron clearly only forced Marcus to say that simply so that they could spread their hate. Get the broom, Eileen. Time to chase them from the house. He also insinuates that the only reason why the Sweeneys decided to do the exchange was because they're poor, as if him coming in to preach his pathetic brand of hate wasn't terrible enough. I saw the interview, a total fluff piece. That idiot reporter had the chance to ask the boy about real issues since he spent the whole time talking about his favorite food and how advanced he is. I hate to say this, but I agree. The reporter was clearly more interested in recreating the "now kiss" meme with Kara and Elix than actually hitting upon real issues. Laughing with them about the burnt flatbread isn't journalism, that's reenacting the romance plot of Hunger Games. Thankfully, Kara sees the guy for the nut job that he is and yells for her dad, but Ron then decides to imply that Elix would force himself on Kara. Bill shows up then and he's had back-to-back shifts at the hospital, so Kara thinks that is completely and utterly perfect. Now that there's somebody new to try and brainwash, Ron starts his spiel all over again. However, Bill is not there for Ron's nonsense and says that he doesn't care because the aliens cured Eileen's cancer. And then, oh Lord, and then Ron says this. But look at the ramifications of the cancer cure, Ron said, foolishly refusing to budge. Smoking's increased 300%, and don't even get me started on the surge in chemical pesticide use. The whole room fell silent. Had this guy seriously complained about a universal cure for cancer? These people would literally never be happy no matter what the aliens bring to the table. Elix comes downstairs to see what's going on. Bill pointedly tells Kara to take Elix on a walk, or as Kara interprets it as, get him out of here before I whoop Ron and Marcus. As they're going out the back door, Kara hears Marcus screaming that he'd clearly seen Elix with a weapon and thinks that with a father like Ron, it's little wonder Marcus is wonky in the head. Outside, Elix has something that sounds suspiciously like an off-brand Tamagotchi. He's upset that his dog keeps dying despite him caring for it as instructed, but Kara looks over the game and tells him that the dog died because it didn't have any love, which sounds corny, but that's part of how those games work. Elix complains about that, but Kara reminds him that it's a game for little girls. It doesn't have to make sense. He says that he's been playing the game for the past 3 days, but only because it's the only one he hasn't mastered yet. She then offers him some of the chocolate she'd been eating when interrupted by her mom, and then Ron and Marcus. That's what you said about Skittles. I vomited a rainbow afterward. I don't think Skittles would want to taste that particular rainbow. When he says that it's gross, Kara complains that it's the food of the gods. This prompts them to talk about religion on his planet. He explains some about the sacred mother whom they believe invented all life on their planet, but now it's more tradition than it is taken seriously as a religion. He turns the question on her. She says that she wasn't really all that religious, but goes on to say that when the aliens showed up, a lot of people gave up on their own religions because they're not, and I quote, mentioned in the Bible. She says that it's not that weird to think that God would have created the world in 7 days, but not have had a hand in making aliens in their home planets. But she says that it feels like compassion is at an all-time low, which she equates with people not being in church every Sunday. Kara says that she likes the fall leaves, although Elix says that the most beauty is on the ground, which reminds him of home. She hands him a stick and tells him to keep it as a better reminder than the flatbed that she tried to make. He says that the leaves would taste better, which results in them having a leaf fight. Right as Kara surrenders to him, Tori shows up. Kara asks that Elix go back inside, and he hustles in. Tori gets angry because Kara had said that she'd wanted to relax with the book, but then refused to let Kara explain about how shirty Ron and Marcus had been. And the entire fight with Tori is simply dumb. She clearly wants nothing more to do with her so-called friend, yet she keeps going over there just to get offended over and over. Stop! I don't have any sympathy for you. You are a terrible person, and you should feel ashamed over your poor actions. They have a huge fight in which Kara defends Elix's actions, despite still being kind of on edge after having seen him sneak into the woods that one time. At the end, Tori's friend breaks up with Kara and storms off. Tori wonders if this isn't some situation of invasion of the body snatchers, because this isn't like Tori at all. She thinks about making up with her friend in a day or two and refuses to think of a world without her friend by her side. Chapter 11. One morning, Kara calls Elix to come and look out the front window. There are protesters outside, but she points out how they painted the oozers on the Sweeney's front yard. Time to get one of those video doorbells and press charges for destruction of property. The two of them are going to another county to get some soil and water samples. Elix doesn't know why his government wants those samples, but he finds that he's eager to spend some quiet time with Kara away from angry protesters. They go downstairs to eat, where Kara kisses her father good morning. Elix always feels awkward watching the affection shared between the family, even platonic kisses from daughter to father. As they settle in to eat, Kara asks if they should call Rudder to disperse the protesters outside their home. Elix says no, that the military showing up would only incite fear and make the entire situation way worse, which is a fair point to make. Also, if anybody cares, but Elix has accidentally killed 11 digital puppies in Kara's video game. Out in the countryside, Elix makes another point about how the humans are destroying their planet with industry. It's yet another overly in-your-face reminder from the author, and I'm all for save the trees messages in books, but the author should have stopped with the main racism storyline in this book. But friendship involved give and take. What did humans have to give? He's right, though. Why are his people helping the humans? There's something fishy going on about that. Kara asked him about something he'd said in his most recent interview, that it had taken the aliens a decade to find Earth. Elix scoffs over the journalist and her inability to ask questions that most people would care about. He also explains about how many billions of planets that there are, and even when you remove the ones that they couldn't possibly go to because of extreme harsh conditions, then there's still too many planets to feasibly explore. But he says that the other life forms his species encountered were more somewhere in their cave-dwelling phase. He likens coming across Earth as akin to winning the lottery. Kara asks if any of the other species they encountered looked humanoid. He says yes, but no. Yes, in that they're bipedal and more or less upright, but no in other ways that the book is intentionally vague about. He also explains why it is that humans and Lahirs are so closely related, and if anybody is familiar with Stargate, the backstory of the Lahirs is kind of along the same lines. Millions of years ago, more advanced species showed up and took humans away from Earth, so they're technically the same species, yet one of them picked science and the other picked religion. He doesn't say that last bit, but come on. But he also tells her that this is simply an old legend and it's about as believable as any Bible story. She then asks about the cloning process. He says that since the population is so carefully controlled by the government, there's enough caregivers for new children in every generation. And you know what? I've read enough sci-fi to say that this is probably why the aliens are so interested in making all the deals with Earth. That there's something wrong with the breeding program or something, and they're desperate to find someplace else to live or whatever. Do any Stargate fans remember the subplot where the Asgard pointedly told SG-1 that their species had forgotten how to manually reproduce? He explains that families on his planet aren't exactly a thing in the same sense as they are on Earth. He says that sometimes the older generation will offer to foster a baby, but most of the children go from the artificial womb to the children's home, where they'll remain until they're 21 years old. But upon hearing about how emotionally distant people are on his planet, something clicks inside of Kara's mind. He doesn't like being touched because he's never been touched. Not in the way that Kara has been touched by her parents and brother. Hugs and piggyback rides and watching her parents show affection for one another. Elix says that it's absurd that the people of his planet know about the benefits of touch, but the way he makes it sound is as if it's all part of some scientific equation rather than wanting to hug somebody because you love them. Kara basically double dog dares him to touch her, not a simple touch like him helping her out from the muck of the river earlier, but an actual hug. But before they can do that, she insists that somebody's out there. That makes them want to pack up their things and quickly get out of there. Kara is certain that it's a hiker, but she doesn't want to mess around in case it's not. Chapter 12. The chapter opens with Culture Clash Mondays. Kara mentions rude alien hand gestures but tells off the jerkwads in her comments about how she knows that they don't only use those for evil. So instead she talks about a coming-of-age ceremony where the elders decide that children between the ages of 13 to 17 are ready to become adults. They swear an oath to the planet itself, and then people will stand in line and smear mud over the person's naked body. Kara is like, I went to the Olive Garden when I turned 16. Having finished that, Kara leaves the school's computer lab to go meet up with Elix. As she's getting things from her locker, she asks him if he's seen Tori recently, and then she explains about the huge fight that they'd had the other day. Elix points out Tori standing further down the hall, and Kara goes to talk to her, but the narration says that half of the lacrosse team, as well as Eric and Marcus, were standing around Tori. No, you don't. Tori is a lost cause. Make better friends this time, Kara. However, Kara is a few cents short of $1 and goes over there. Marcus tries to talk to her, but Kara only asks to speak with Tori alone. Tori insists that Kara should listen to Marcus. This only prompts Marcus to begin spewing his vile hate, while Kara promptly shuts him down. Also, Tori and Eric are holding hands. This is baffling to Kara because Tori always liked somebody named Jared, and she's always gone out of her way to express how much that she hates Eric. The fact that the two of them are apparently an item makes Kara think that Tori's not quite right in the head. Until you send him home, Marcus said, none of our members will associate with your family in any way. He slashed one hand through the air. We're talking about a total shutdown. Best news I've heard all day. Can you start ignoring me 5 minutes ago? Marcus stalks off after that, which I don't know what he expected was going to happen. You can't be that openly rude towards people and then be surprised when they tell you not to let the door hit you on the way out. As the group breaks up, Kara realizes that Tori and Eric are actually together. She thinks about some of the things that Tori had said about Eric and thinks that there's a fine line between love and hate at times. It also makes Kara question if Eric had even cared about Kara at all. Kara is quick to call them out and demands to know if they'd even waited until Kara and Eric were broken up before dating. They insist that it's not like that their relationship just sort of happened. Kara is quick to call them out on their nonsense, saying that you don't accidentally start dating your best friend's boyfriend. Eric says that Kara moved on fast, which probably says more about him that he thinks that anything male in Kara's life is a romantic interest. Kara continues to call Tori out for her terrible behavior. It isn't until Kara sees the halo pin on Tori's shirt that Kara suddenly realizes that her 6-year friendship with Tori is completely and utterly over. Well, better late than never, I suppose. Tori pointedly tells Kara to quit leave, but Kara pointedly tells her that it's not like they can go back to how things once were, not when Tori has shown her true colors. I hope he gives you whatever disease he picked up from the Home Depot. Ooh, burn. Kara turns around and leaves. Elix catches up with her and says that he felt like it was going to happen, but doesn't specify what it is. She mentions how Tori Eric are a thing now, which makes him a little surprised to hear this. Elix takes her home, where he has almost cheered her up, but when they get inside, Eileen asks what happened and Kara breaks down. Now, Elix sits in his room and listens to Kara crying in her room. He ponders on how he can cheer her up when his friends call him. They talk about the plants that they'd brought from their planet, about how they're starting to take root and kill off any nearby fields that they're planted near. The plan is to ensure that humans hate the aliens, so there's no need to be subtle about anything. The 3 exchange students only want to go home. Then why did you agree to the program? Aaron is having some doubts about what they're doing. My guess is because he's finding it rather nice living in China, but Cyrene says that she discovered her creepy human host hid a camera in her room. She found it before he got a free show or discovered her talking to her friends. But still, wow, how the frick-frack paddywhack did a guy like that sneak into the elite program? Aaron confirms what I'd already guessed, that his family is nice. Helix thinks about how brave Kara had been to confront those scummy ex-friends of hers earlier, but then he pointedly tells Aaron that he can't let emotions get the better of logic. He tells them to look at the soil and water samples and that it doesn't take much to figure out how awful all humans are in general are. And it's not that I'm saying that I disagree with anything Elix is saying here. He needs to look out for his planet and that the humans are kind of collectively terrible. Not simply about alien racism, but in general with pollution and wars and everything else. But at the same time, I'm also still waiting for the elder aliens to drop the other shoe about why they're so fixated on Earth. But still, Iran is having doubts now. His friends try to talk him down for a bit before he can really agree either way. He gets called away and hangs up. So Alex says goodbye to Cyrene and he feels guilty over intentionally sabotaging the alien-human relations. He also feels bad for Kara, whose entire life has been turned upside down all because of this. And he'd feel even worse simply for leaving her like that. Thanks for listening to my book Snark on YouTube. New videos are up every Monday, but stick around because I sometimes drop random videos on other days too. Just as a reminder, even if you can't financially support me, there are other ways to help me out. The first is watching this video as well as all my other videos. It's also important to like and subscribe. Finally, you can share this video with all of your friends so that they can help as well. If you're already caught up with all of my videos, you can go to Tumblr for my main book Snarks, always free and updated every morning. And if you've already read all of my main Snarks, then you can find even more Snark on my Patreon. You can access it for $1 a month. Members also get early access to my main Tumblr Snark. Special thanks to Dawn, Phoebe, and Nikki for supporting me on Patreon already. If you want to hear your name in my video next week, either support me on Patreon or make a one-time donation. Do you like my Snarks so much that you want me to snark your writing? I do that too. For just $6 per chapter, I will tell you how awful that your writing is. But not to worry if you feel like you couldn't take the criticism. I also offer regular book editing as well, just 1 cent per word. You can contact me on any of my social media platforms if you have further questions. If you want to read some of the things that I've written, you can purchase my works on Amazon. I have a slew of erotic short stories and now 2 full-length novels. I also sometimes run flash sales on my stores, and if you don't follow me on any social media, you might want to do so just so you can know when I might be offering more things for free. Links for everything will be posted below. See you next week, guys!